Hey, Jamie, my friend, how are you doing, sir?
Rod, buddy, I'm doing really good. How are you this fine evening? Happy
J-
Wednesday night.
Happy Wednesday night to you as well. I'm really excited for the show and our guest, um, and really enjoy the networking that we have. And we're going to do something a little bit different. We've switched gears a little bit tonight and gone back to your realm. As we've talked about on the show before, what's unique about our show, or what I like about our show, is we both bring our own personal interests into the show, and it's all good. All paranormal is all good, but this is something that you really get into. So I'm really excited for our guest that we have on the show tonight, and later on,
Likewise.
yeah, later on tonight, folks, be stay tuned because Kd Foreman will be here. And she's with us right now in the studio, if you will, in our Zoom studio
Virtual
and
studio.
virtual studio right now, but she's waiting in the wings. And good evening, Katie. Welcome, by the way.
Thank you so much.
You bet. You bet. Thank you for coming to the show. Now, real quick here, Jamie. I'm going to, since I don't have Nick to tell me how we're sounding, Nick is busy tonight. I see we are live right
Oh,
now on Spreaker, but I'm going to take my phone and just make sure that we're broadcasting live on Spreaker and WBR. Why don't you, in the meantime, tell us what's going on in the world of Phoenix, Arizona Paranormal Society?
you betcha, buddy. Phoenix, Arizona Paranormal Society, or PAPS, as we're otherwise known. We are a local investigative group, paranormal group in Phoenix, Arizona, which I am an investigator for and a case manager. And, COVID numbers here in Arizona are going down a little bit, which is really, really good to see. So I think we have been working with some clients that we've had on hold for the last 4 months that we're going to be starting to go out into homes again, starting next week. Next weekend, actually, we had to push it back because we have a prior commitment this Friday night for a virtual meeting. Next weekend, we'll be doing an investigation, and we're working on about 3 to 4 other ones. In the meantime, we're starting to get gearing up for fall, putting some tour dates together at the Pioneer Museum as well, again, as we usually do every fall, and for Halloween. Usually in Halloween, we do the zoo, the Phoenix Zoo every year for Boo at the Zoo, but this year they're not going to be having it for obvious reasons. So, and it's great because this year Halloween's on a Saturday night, so we're working on something at the Pioneer Museum, or another collaboration with other groups and other facets of the paranormal. So, we'll be working on that next couple months. So we're excited to get back out into homes and doing some investigations. That is what's going on with the Phoenix, Arizona Paranormal Society. Check us out on Facebook, Phoenix, Arizona Paranormal Society /PAPS, or our website, Phoenix, Arizona Paranormal Society.com. Stay tuned, stay abreast of all things PAPS. We put all our videos of every investigation that we do. We put that out on Facebook, and you can check those out and keep updated on upcoming news and events, tours, stuff like that. So
Right on. And
that's
then
PAPS.
I will tell you, the one thing I love about, and I don't really know if I can call it a partnership yet, but we've certainly been supportive of other paranormal shows. I don't look at it as, a competition, and, other paranormal shows that are out there, and I'll share and post their links to our page, and because I think it's more of a collaboration, as uh, we are part of the media now, and we're putting out podcasts, and I will support other podcasts. And same way with Paps Rod, I will gladly put out his and link
Ghost
his
Rod.
Ghost Rod. Yeah,
Ghost Rod. Your
yeah,
radio rod, and that's Ghost Rod.
that's Ghost Rod. Yeah, I will gladly link his show to mine to ours as well. And so good. Um, and we'll talk about this off the air here, but we've got some interesting news. We have collaborated, you and Vincent and I, and we are looking to definitely get things moving for our 2-year anniversary, which is in October. And by then, we're hoping to have our websites and YouTube channels all up and running. And maybe YouTube will be live at the time. And I don't think we can do that with the audio, some of the audio stuff that we do, but we're definitely going to get Zoom. We're going to get this up and being recorded at the same time, so you all out there listening can see us as we talk to our guests, and whether they like it or not. And I'm looking at Kd to see if she was going to react to that. And
You'll come
and
back on when we're live on video. You'll come back on, Katie.
yeah,
Yeah.
yes, we'll warn you first, of course. But we definitely want to have our YouTube channel up and running. The other channels up, and then we are going to launch our merchandise, and we've got some ideas going with that. And we're going to also launch Patreon. So if you are a fan of the show, subscribe to the show, and you feel like contributing, we always say you don't have to. We do this because we enjoy doing it, but any contributions you give are appreciated as well. So we'll get that up and running by October, and Vincent is all on board with that as well. And I got to tell you, I really appreciate the hard work that he has done for the show. So we'll give the links.
And maybe some free merch, Rod. Some free merch. You never know. Merchandise for
Absolutely.
those Patreon fans.
We definitely want to get that free merchandise out there, and we'll give links to the show at the end of the show. So don't let me forget, Jamie. We'll get the links to the YouTube channel, to the main page out there. To have everybody just kind of look at it and see what we're all about. Let's see, where is the other? Yes, Cygnus X1 Paranormal Podcast.net and YouTube as well. Just search for Cygnus X1 Paranormal Podcast, and you'll see our 3 shows that we have up there right now. And we have 6 subscribers. We've had 19 views on our first show, 8 views, and then 3 from just a couple of days ago. So we're getting there. We're getting there, folks. All right, Jamie, let's look at some news really quick. If you don't mind taking this one, we can just start right here. And this comes to us from a website called Week in Weird, and it concerns a woman known as Judy. Take it away, sir.
Judy claims at first that the more or less, I think I got lost there, buddy. So I'm going to start over. A very strange case comes to us from the site Week in Weird and concerns a woman only known as Judy, who claims at first that she more or less was raised in an intensely haunted house. She describes how her sister would go into seizures and speak in tongues as if possessed. Mysterious noises or disembodied footsteps at all hours, and various other paranormal phenomena that got so bad her parents actually had a priest come to exorcise the residents. According to Judy, most of the activity seemed to be focused on the bathroom area, where she often heard a voice from the shadows taunting her and calling out her name. This would subside with the exorcism, and whether this has anything to do with the case at hand or not, in her adult years she would receive a series of very eerie voice messages on her new elderly mother's landline. One day she claimed she came home and found that she had missed several calls while she was out. Thinking it was just friends or someone from work, she pressed play on the... Let's you scroll down there, buddy. There you go. She pressed play on the...
Sorry about that. There you are, right there.
Okay, thinking it was just friends or someone from work, she pressed play on the messages and was in for quite an unsettling surprise when she heard what sounded like a low, unintelligible whisper or mumbling on the other end. She played them back again and congealing out of the static and murmuring she was sure she could hear a male voice somewhere in the background, incessantly whispering her name. And there seemed to be other voices as well, flecked throughout the recording, saying things like hide and go to the house and hurry, as if warning her. Judy asked her daughter if she had left the messages herself as a prank. But she claimed that she hadn't, and Judy's own mother also claimed that there had been no calls to the line all that day, making it even odder. The daughter would become quite fascinated with her mother's story And she writes of the strange messages.
All right. So that's kind of the crux of the story, but I got to ask you something, Jamie. Have you ever heard of anything like that? And Katie, jump in here as well. Have you heard of messages or I don't know if it's EVP or not, but have you ever heard messages come through an electronic device, a phone, a um, answering machine, anything, any voicemail of any kind from beyond? Have you, either of you, have you heard of anything like that before?
The first time I ever heard anything like that was an old episode of Twilight Zone. I don't know if anybody remembers that, but there have been over the years in my research, there has been. I mean, that's not ever happened to me, of course, but that would be pretty cool if that did
Yeah.
happen. But yeah, voices from the great. You know, I've seen, read, I should say, I've read several stories about those. Are they true? I don't know. It could be just made up and glamorized and sensationalized, but
Right.
Yes,
nothing
they
that I
are
know.
true. The house I lived in before this one, I lived there 20 years. Male spirit, previous homeowner, was in the home, and he regularly left me messages on my answering machine. So I have it firsthand. It happens.
Did the phone
Wow.
ring at all, or just the voice? The message would just show up.
That's interesting. The electronic way it happens, someone dials you, an electronic signal tells your phone to ring. Electronic signal tells your answering machine to announce my recording. You know, I'm not home, leave your message. The next electronic signal signals it to beep and begin recording. And then at some point it shuts off. So that's, you know, the series of what's expected. But I'd be sitting in the living room and suddenly out of my answering machine, this male voice would say, it is like, oh,
Wow,
yeah.
You
that's
know,
incredible.
what's funny about this story, if you see right here, and we continue on with it, the message is not static, but seems glitchy. There's a dominant low voice that seems to say my mother's name slowly, Judy. At times, it's 50 seconds long and repeats. I mean, I gotta be honest with you, that would be very disconcerting to hear anything like that over. But you know, it's funny because I'm sure tonight we'll talk about the use of electronic devices when it comes to uh, EVPs and messages from beyond and whatnot. All right, we'll go on to the next one here, and Jamie, I'll take this one for you. Um, this is these are my favorite, quote unquote paranormal stories. Specters on the roads. I've always liked those kind of stories. You always hear those, the phantom hitchhiker and the woman in white, and along the road in the graveyard.
Resurrection Mary.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Well, according to this article, and it was written July 30th by a gentleman named Rick Redfern.
Nick
Yeah,
Redfern. He's
Nick.
from Ancient Aliens.
Nick Redfern says Neil Arnold is a good friend of mine and someone who, also like me, has spent a lot of time investigating the matter of supernatural women in black that can be found all around the world, and women in white as well. Neil has put together a wealth of material on this strange and creepy phenomenon. And today, he was going to share some data that Neil had shared. And with that, Neil has says, for almost a century, an abundance of motorists while driving through the village of Bluebell Hill in Kent, England, have claimed to have knocked down, picked up, or seen by the roadside a young, forlorn female specter dressed in a pale dress. Over the years, the legend has become known as the Phantom Hitchhiker of Bluebell Hill, and yet what happened during the January of 1993 on the ancient Chalk Hill was far more sinister. He continues to say, January 6th at 12:45 a.m., 5 people, a Maiden family, were traveling in a vehicle up what is known as the Old Chatham Road, the original route through Bluebell Hill before the construction in the 1970s of the dual carriageway, the A229. You folks out there in Wigan, UK, probably know where this is. When they observed a figure standing in the road at the edge of the headlight beam, the driver, a Mr. Malcolm Maiden, was accompanied by his wife Angela, who was the passenger. And in the back seat sat their young daughter, who was fast asleep. Mrs. Maiden's mother and a friend of the family was in the car as well. The figure, did I read that right? Oh, okay. The figure started across the dark lane, moving from right to left, causing Mr. Maiden to slow down the vehicle. At first, the four witnesses thought they were being hoaxed by someone in a costume as possibly a very belated Halloween prank. The figure, according to Mr. Maiden, was wearing a long, old-fashioned dress, a tartan shawl round the top, and a bonnet with a brim. However, this is where things become a little unnerving. The headlights of the car illuminated a despicable form that appeared to be a hunched over, like when you trap a rabbit in your headlights, but within a split second the apparition had rounded on the vehicle, and it was then that the witnesses saw the face, and it was horrific. It was reported that the face was small, with black beady eyes. It was like a wizened face, and yet there was not the most terrifying characteristic of the hag. The whole thing was all from the worst thing was from the mouth. It opened like an empty black hole. My mother was sitting directly behind me. At the time, I remember we said, "Oh my God." Then a hissing noise filled the interior of the vehicle, even though the windows were closed on this cold and clear night. The figure appeared to be clutching a spray of twigs, which in a bony hand, and shook it aggressively. And that was when the panic kind of ensued. We won't continue on with the long story, but what do you think of that, Jamie? I mean, is this, these are one of those stories that gets passed on and told and retold and retold. Have you, we've kind of talked about, other hauntings and things that have happened. This seems to be, like, if true, one of the most terrifying kind.
There's a lot of terrifying kinds. So yeah, that would certainly be disconcerting to a lot of people, I think. And I don't know. I mean, that would be something that I would always like to see. I'd like to see every kind of scary thing out there, just to see if it's ever real. But like you said, a lot of things get twisted from, every time the story's told, something changes a little bit. So
yeah, right. Have you? And then Kd, we'll just jump in here real quick. What do you think of this story? Do you think it's one of the more plausible, or do you look at it more like from a skeptic's point of view when you hear these kind of stories?
Well, I've seen a few things. The thing I think about is the fear is you don't know how bad it's going to get. So the sound, they see something, and then all of a sudden there's a sound inside the car. You don't know what's going to happen next. So Jamie can look for him, and I'm going to stay in the background. I don't want to.
You know what's funny about this, and maybe we'll get into this in the main segment of the show, is they stated that a horrible atmosphere had descended over the vehicle, and I think that is, to me, probably the most plausible and realistic aspect of hauntings. Is it isn't anything that you physically see or naturally see in front of you, an apparition, or it's more of a feeling, an atmosphere, if you will, a dread, or maybe even joy sometimes. Who knows with what you feel in a haunting or that kind of energy. And that's maybe the better word for it. You feel the energy from it. And I think that's fascinating. And I think we'll get into that more in your segment of the show, Kd, as we get going here. All right, we'll do one more, Jamie. Do you want to do this one? This is that haunted attraction ghost hunt in Idaho. Or do you want to do this one? This is a UFO. You want to do this one? All right. So last Sunday around 2:30 in the afternoon, this is coming from, by the way, The Truth Is Out There. UFOs Are All We've Got, dated August 3rd, 2020. And the author writes that I got a push alert on my phone that a possible UFO had been seen in Long Beach, California. Unfortunately, it was probably just a fly. The news came from TMZ, which might have felt a little off-brand if UFOs weren't everyone's business lately. Again, just last month, the New York Times published a big story about the Pentagon's dedicated UFO unit. The Pentagon, the Times reported, had officially released videos of strange encounters between Navy pilots and unidentified aircraft, first published in the Times last year. But if that wasn't enough to cement UFO's pop culture primacy, Post Malone recently told Joe Rogan that he has seen several UFOs as well. Meanwhile, reported UFO sightings are on the rise in Canada, Belgium, and in the United States as well. Coincidentally, or maybe not, these are places that have also enforced stay-at-home orders over the same time frame. According to Chris Rutkowski, a ufology researcher in Canada, he says we're looking at an increase of about 50% from this time last year. So for some reason, people are reporting more UFOs during the lockdown. Now, there's a few reasons that this might be happening. One, of course, is that aliens are going wild, and there really are more UFOs in the sky than usual. Or what else could it be? We certainly have had a lot of UFO stories, and a lot of our guests have talked about UFO stories. Jamie, what do you think it is? What do you think the reason why we've had more UFO stories? And this has been a great question for our good friend Shane last week.
Well, I haven't seen any data,
Mm.
from sightings from this year versus last year at the same time or the year before that. But it is summer; the days are longer.
Yeah.
So like I said, we're in a pandemic, so a lot of people are home, maybe at night or whatever, and eyes to the sky, especially with all the disclosure that's been going on lately. So maybe a lot more people are just looking up in the skies lately. So I wouldn't say there's necessarily more UAPs flying around, but maybe more people have eyes to the sky. I think that would be it. Right.
Well, we'll definitely have to reach out to Shane and see if he's got data to support that, and especially if it's been, the beginning of March until present. What is the increase? What's that bar curve? And if there's any correlation with it.
Tonight, we have a very special guest. I've known this person for a couple years. She came out to a ghost hunt with us, our team, the PAPS team, actually, when I first met her. And so she was very nice, and we've been Facebook friends since then. And she does a lot of stuff out there. So, and she's become like a Facebook friend. I like to get to know her a little bit better and maybe collaborate with her, as I was talking about earlier. Collaborate with other people. It'd be kind of fun to do stuff with other groups and other people. But tonight, everybody, we have Kd Foreman. Kd has been contacted by spirits since she was 10 years old. With over 30 years of paranormal research, she combines psychic impressions with modern scientific equipment to help her learn about life after death. A topic near and dear to my heart. I love talking about that. Kd Foreman, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you for having me here.
Well, you're welcome. This is your show tonight, so we're so excited to have you on. And like I said earlier, we can just sit and talk for hours, I think. On this show, we like to talk about, when we talk with our guests, we like to talk about the beginning stages of your life, not when you were born, what year you're born or anything like that, but kind of give us an idea how the paranormal ghosts, you said you can see spirits since you were 10. So did it go before that? Just kind of give us a synopsis of what happened long time ago when this whole thing started for you.
I think I'm finding out people that talk in their sleep and do a lot of sleepwalking, maybe between the ages of 7 and 10, kind of are possibly going to be linked to the spirit energy later in life. There seems to be coming up. So I was a sleepwalker and talker and had vivid dreams, and that was just a given. And then I started seeing things when I was awake between 10 and 13. A lot of deja vu. You see something, and then just a moment later, I'd see it again, and I'd start to think, what? Because you can't comprehend that when you're 11 and 12 years old. Then when I was 13, 14, 15, 16, I babysat in a house that is now known as this extremely haunted house in California. At the time, it was just my parents' friend's house. but it's super haunted. And it was craziness. And when you're 14 and 15 and this house is built in like 1890, it's 3-4 stories tall. It looks out of some sort of great haunted movie. And things are going on around you. You don't know whether to keep coming back and getting the babysitter money or just to call it quits, or all I had on TV at that time was Frankenstein movie, so I didn't know what was going on. And there was no Twilight Zone, but there was no haunted TV paranormal shows.
Ghost Adventures wasn't on back then?
No, yeah, we're talking like, yeah, no.
I tease.
Yeah.
So you were born and raised in California. Was that Northern or Central or Southern California?
Southern California, an hour east of Los Angeles. It's called the Inland Empire. It's where San Bernardino and Riverside are.
Yep.
Yeah, all my life. And so, so then my parents kind of got wind of what was going on, and they tried to shut it down. My dad said, "That's witch hunting." And it's like, "Okay, Dad." So I just clamped down and like, no, don't pay attention. And then when I moved out of the house and started my adult life, the spirits started just chattering at me and demanding attention. And I finally gave in and thought, okay, what am I going to do with this info? So it was an interesting beginning, kind of more of a roller coaster, because you have outside people telling you no, and yet all these things are going on in your face.
So when you were 10 years old, did you say the house you grew up in was haunted, or the house you babysat in?
The one I babysat, it's in Redlands, called the Morey Mansion. Now, at the time, it was just Mr. Allen's house,
Okay. And did your parents know about your having visitors when you were 10? Did you talk to them about it?
Yeah, I couldn't
at that early age?
understand, Dad, I just saw you walk up to the door and drop your keys and check in your back pocket. And then I just saw you walk up to the door again and drop your keys and then check your back pocket. And he says, I didn't do that twice. So they kept shutting it down. And, Mom, I just saw you drop a glass. And she's like, I didn't drop a glass. And then she dropped a glass a few minutes later. And she's like, look what you made me do. And I'm thinking, okay,
Interesting.
Yeah, so they don't like it. So I keep them and me, that area, separate,
Was there anybody else in the family that had these abilities, like cousins, grandma, grandpa, uncle, aunt?
My aunt, quite a bit of intuition, precognition. My cousin, Debbie, has kind of psychic abilities, intuition, really good. Not anyone else I can think of offhand. So I'm sure there was, but we didn't talk about that back then.
Yeah, that's right. You hear those stories all the time.
Yeah.
Back in the day, people just didn't talk about this stuff.
Yeah.
Now it's as open as Montana sky.
When I first started watching the TV shows, there were only 2. So even then, to make an announcement, I was running a paranormal group, I had to keep that away from work or they might let me go,
Wow. Everybody wants to talk about it with me at work. I mean, I think that's the coolest thing.
Yeah, you're like,
that's just the way the world has changed, which is great. I love it. I've been waiting for this my whole life. In the last 15, 20 years has been a great, piercing of that veil a lot. I mean, not just a little bit. I think there's been a lot, especially when we're talking about the spiritual world and ghosts and stuff like that. A lot of people don't like to go into that because it teeters on the fringes of religion. And that's not really what this is about at all. So I think that's why a lot of people don't like to talk about it. But right now, like I said, in the year 2020, I mean, why not? Everything else is going on. So let's just really dive into it. So you're in your late teens, after high school. What goes on? You said you were where you left off. You said they were starting, the spirits were really starting to come to you.
Well, yeah. What I started noticing is them giving me impressions and images in my mind. I mean, it's one thing out of your body to visually see things or audibly hear things, but in my mind, having dreams that became real, having impressions of information that I shouldn't know and haven't been exposed to. And as you get older and you start piecing it together, I think it's in the mid-20s I start realizing, I think the spirits are talking to me. And the only way to know is to try and get some sort of validation. So you start asking people, you're on a historical tour and you say to them, was there a little lady here that used to live here and she, died of some kind of something in the throat? And, and you seek that validation. And then when people start saying, yeah, how did you know that? Well, then that made me more confident in the impressions I was getting.
See, those impressions you would get, would it be just in your mind's eye, or was you able to see them full on, like a clairvoyant would?
It's when I'm doing a reading with someone, it's like a spirit shows up and flips a photo album very quickly, and I'm getting like, here's my life story, flip, flip, flip. So it's kind of like slow down, and then they will give me the emotions that they went through in certain moments. I was sad here, I was happy there. So I take on, so there's a bit of empath going on. I take on their emotion. I see what they saw, and then I, in my mind's eye, I hear things they tell me. For instance, one of you has a female that's been coming through all day. We'll talk about that later, but they'll start telling me something, and then the only way to know is to get validation. And again, it's so abstract. I had to learn that when they showed me a multitude of candles that looked like a shrine, that really meant a recent birthday or anniversary was nearby. So I have to dissect why they're showing me what they're showing me. They don't speak the English language. It's kind of like charades,
Okay. Yeah, and you hear that from different mediums, that they get messages. Every one of them gets messages differently.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Like that. They make you think, and they have to make you put puzzles together. And that's why you have to work years and years and years to figure out what they're sending you, and why they make it that hard. Nobody knows, I guess.
I know.
Some other people can just literally see them and hear them like they're real people. They're real solid people right there. It's just fascinating to me.
Yeah, yeah. Which is kind of why I started the paranormal group. It's like, what the heck, and I couldn't find anyone like-minded. And we're going back to 2005, which is just 15 years ago. Just before 2005, I couldn't find anyone like-minded. And so in looking for another kind of group, I found a paranormal group, and I'm like, what? Because back then there were only 2 in my area and maybe 2 in Los Angeles, and that was it.
Wow, 2005?
Yes.
Wow, I figured it'd be about 502.
Yeah, you would think, but back then it was so early in the paranormal. It has come that far that fast.
Yeah.
And it rides waves. It'll start to come down, and then something will cause it to come back up. But yeah, so I found the group, and it was like, oh my gosh, it's I'm free to talk about it. It's like this release from a prison. It's this freedom to have people go, yeah, me too. They know what you're talking about. And and you get tired of people saying, oh, well, that's probably just the wind, and it's like, no.
So up to that point in 2005, prior to that, did you ever reach out? Look for, they had the internet back then. Did you ever think about going to any training and how to develop more of your psychic abilities? And, there's all kinds of, meetup groups and stuff like that. And
Yeah,
classes, I mean, even like meditation classes, metaphysical stores are back there. You could have done something like that.
right. So all through the 90s, the internet came out in 97. So all through the 90s, I was searching by word of mouth and what have you, and phone books and whatever else we used back then, metaphysical stores and classes,
Back of
crystal
newspaper ads.
crystal healing,
Yeah.
whatever you could find. And then when the internet came out, we're all on dial-up.
Yeah.
Then it was, everyone didn't have a website back then, so in the early days, I remember in 97, 98, 99, we're still trying to figure out what should I go look at, and what do you do with this internet and stuff. And probably by the year 2000, it started like really smoothing out, and they were it got to be the habit to run to Google and search for things around me. And so I had, all through the 2000 through 2010, I had so many metaphysical classes and, flower reading and crystal healing. And I learned what would amplify my energy and what was too much for me to be around, and, that kind of side of everything. But in addition to reading everyone, there was still a cluster of people that wanted to research, why are there ghosts here, and why are some of them familiar and some of them strangers, and why are they in the cemetery, and why are they at this historical, and why are they always at a theater, any theater you go to. And so aside from the mediumship, which is, I've become much more confident in my impressions, but back then, unless I get validation, I just couldn't know. So I needed to move over to the scientific side and start looking at what pieces of equipment do I feel more comfortable with, and take out, and get voices and what have you, and have the REM pod go off and exciting moments.
Well, let's talk about that real quick before we go back. When you're doing investigations, you have your equipment out. Are you able to, you're in a known haunted location. Can you see or feel spirits there at the same time you have your equipment out? And in your mind, can you see a spirit, let's say, walk in front of the REM pod or your K2 meter or the male meter, and it goes off? And so you're actually validating it to yourself. Even maybe nobody else can know it, but yourself. I mean, does that happen?
It's more of a feeling. I will know, put my equipment here because they come here. Something residual is lingering, or they are here. I know they're there right now, and I'm gonna put my equipment right here because I know they're gonna come and check it out. So there have been moments when I have seen spirits straight on for a moment, a second or two or three, and blip, they're gone. I always, out of the corner of the eye, what have you, and stuff. I don't visually see them as much, and I'll tell you why. I kind of shut that part down because I've been in way too many situations where the more negative energies know that I have an ability to pick up on them, and I don't want to see them. And so I don't want to see a lot of spirits like the stories we read earlier tonight.
Right.
I don't want to see someone's mouth turned creepy, gaping hole, I don't want to bring something negative into it where it takes the enjoyment out of it. So I rely instead on internal thoughts and impressions, and then see if the equipment will back up what I thought was going on.
Fascinating. I've always kind of wondered that. Like a lot of times, you'll see a lot of mediums, even the ones you see on TV, that go into do ghost hunts. It's like, well, why do you need equipment for? You can see them. I've always wondered that. Why are you taking equipment if you can see them? I always thought that was funny. But I like I said earlier, I know not every medium can see this. They're not totally 100% clairvoyant or even clairaudient. So A lot of times they'll have their equipment just to help verify what they think that they're seeing and noticing and feeling. What do you think ghosts are? What are they? First of all, I want to ask you this. Do you truly 100% believe that ghosts are real? And if they are, what are they? Who are they? Where are they?
I truly 100% believe that there is a cognizant, there's an awareness, there's energy form that has an awareness that they're able to represent who they used to be while living, if living, and that they have shared with me that some have moved on to their next journey, which a lot of people will label as heaven, and some have not. And people always think of them as being right here, right next to you, right here. And I've learned that we can't put our earthly physics on what's in the fourth or possibly fifth dimension. They're not only right here, but there could be somewhere else, you know. So yes, I believe that yes, there is an energy that keeps thinking and keeps deciding after we pass away. Where they are is kind of up to our belief system. If someone believes they're, you know, going to Jupiter, then who knows? You know, if someone believes they're going to a heaven, then who knows? I've had many people make suggestions to me to use for protection of things they were raised with, cultures and religions, and those don't mean anything to me. I can't say the St. Michael's prayer. It doesn't mean anything to me. I wasn't raised Catholic, but they'll say, oh, call on St. Michael. Well, he and I don't really know each other, you know, and but to them it means something so tremendous. It truly probably can protect them. So you have people passing away that have a multitude of belief systems. I can't make a final choice of one size fits all or not, you know. I just know that yes, energy seems to continue to exist. Is that a long answer?
No, that's great. I just like to get other people's opinion on that fact, because everybody's got it their own. You know, some
Oh
people
yeah,
we're alive, we're dead, we're worm food, and that's it.
yeah.
You know, but I just like to hear what everybody's thoughts are on that, because everybody's is different. Nobody has the right answer. I don't care who you are, but it's fun to speculate, and I think it gives hope and meaning to us who do believe that our soul does move on afterwards.
I think
That
so.
we're just, you know, we're spiritual beings living in a physical body, and literally our physical time on this earth is literally just a sleep, a dream that we're having from our soul state, which is you called heaven, or the other side, which is what I call the other side in the fifth dimension.
Right.
And I believe those souls who have passed on and haven't transitioned back to the fifth dimension are stuck in the fourth dimension, and those that remain earthbound, and those are what we call ghosts.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's totally what's my definition of it, and I'm going to stick to it, because a lot of people have said that. You know, I've done a lot of research over the years, and I really like that explanation of it. So
Yeah, it sounds pretty, yeah, like what I was saying, exactly.
yeah, pretty much. What about reincarnation? What do you think about that?
Oh, do we really want to go there?
Yes, I do. We're a paranormal podcast, and we're going to talk about spirit world. Reincarnation
Okay.
has everything to do with that.
I have a friend that
As a friend,
swears she's had many past lives. And we go to a psychic fair and I say, hey, a palm reader, let's try that. And she sits down, they look at her hand and they said, wow, look at all the past lives you've had. I thought, well, that was pretty cool, because we were in her car when she commented, so no one had heard her. I do not have any recollection of any past life.
you're not supposed to.
Well, you know, the people that say, oh yeah, I got in touch with her.
That's by design. We all have spiritual amnesia. That's why the children, the little kids, are usually the ones who remember, because they're so less removed from the other side than we are as adults, and we're all more brainwashed. That's why the older we get, the less we remember.
Well,
I digress. Go ahead.
here's what I present to you. It's possible that some people do not have past lives and some do, because so many people I run into, either it's a yes or no with them. They either do recall or have had a person sit down and, you were a warrior, had a reading about a past life, and they have an interest. I have no interest, and I have no recollection, and I have the darndest time finding my spirit guides. I can't even begin to branch out and get into a past life, and it doesn't matter to me. So those that think they do, I listen. It's interesting, but I don't worry about it.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Just on the record, I do believe in reincarnation.
Okay.
Without a doubt, no question in my mind. But that's awesome. That's a great answer.
I was going to say, Katie, maybe you haven't been in touch with a past life because you're brand new.
You could be new. That's right,
Yeah.
Rod. Good point. A lot of people, this is their first life.
Yeah.
It could be. I just have no feeling. These people that have gotten in touch with their past lives, they were driven that direction because of a feeling they claimed to have. And they'll describe it to me, and it's like, no, not that. Don't feel it.
There's a medium that I follow. He's not, not really famous, but he's prominent. He's an Irishman living in, I think, Philadelphia right now. His name's Phil Quinn. I don't know if you've ever heard of Phil Quinn. He's very good. He's very gifted. And he's literally one of those guys that can see straight on spirits, straight on, just like they're solid.
Wow.
And he says that all the time. He talks about, he does believe in reincarnation, but he always emphasizes that I can't go back. This is his first lifetime. So whenever he would do a regressive hypnosis, he's always unavailable to do it. He can't do it. It was blacks out. There's, like he said, there's a white screen because I can't go back. There's nothing to go back to.
Oh.
So that's how he knows this is his first time around. And his spirit guides have actually even told him that as well.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
So real quick, as we get to the top of the hour, Jamie, let me jump in here. Let's take a quick break. We'll take a quick intro break here, or a music break, I should say. And what we're going to do, though, before we do that, Katie, we have a friend of yours who has been messaging our Facebook page, which any of you out there listening can do. Go to our Facebook page at Cygnus X1 Paranormal and podcast with Rod and Jamie. Cygnus X1 Paranormal podcast with Rod and Jamie. That's our Facebook page. But Robert McCubbin has been messaging us tonight, and he is listening live. Yeah, thanks for tuning in, Robert. And he says that he brought up a couple instances of listeners might enjoy that dark encounter we had at the Eisenhower farmhouse.
Oh, yeah. He's my Gettysburg buddy, paranormal conference. And next to the hotel was the old farmhouse.
Don't tell the story now because we got to go to break first.
Yeah,
that's just a tease.
We'll go to break.
Robert just wanted to make sure that we brought it up to you so you could talk about it.
Yeah, that was quite the night.
Yes, let's talk about that when we get back from the break. Thanks, Jamie, for doing that. And then, Katie, you also sent over to the show some EVPs, the best EVPs. So we'll catch a couple of these. I'll leave this list up, and Jamie, if you can just kind of lead us into this, we'll talk about some. We'll see if we can get some recordings, EVP recordings, out to the listeners as well to hear on the show. We got another guest or another listener who has chimed in, so let's give them a shout out if we can. Christina Hendricks, welcome to Cygnus X1 Paranormal. Thanks for the message, and thanks for digging the music. Thank you very much. I am a Rush fan, and I often play it here, so thank you for that. And we'll try to touch on the Gettysburg story as well. So, Christina, thank you. Shout out to you. Go for it, Jamie. You got it.
Awesome. Thanks, Christina. So yeah, let's we're to believe we do want to talk about maybe one or two Gettysburg stories, Katie. And we do want to get to some EVPs, but let's go back to where we were talking about earlier where we left off. I want to ask you, you said you do some readings for people. Do you still do readings?
Oh yeah. Just did one 2 nights ago. I got a Facebook page on that that's separate from my paranormal group page. But I have been doing readings for, I don't know if you'd say professionally, like a side job kind of a thing. Um, at least 20 years, I would imagine. But it's picked up more in the last 5 years. Suddenly it's like the thing to do. Everyone would like a reading. The thing is, the difference now is it used to all just be under this title of psychic, and now the umbrella has split it into different titles. Psychic being someone that gives a reading about the living, like, should I change my job? Should I move away? And I won't do those. I don't want to cause anyone to make a decision. I want them to make their own free will decision. But the mediumship side is the deceased, usually loved ones, that show up and say, it's grandma, and I just want to tell you I've seen the baby or whatever. And so I will do the mediumship readings. And the thing I get out of it is it really helps families. I know if someone would just read for me and tell me that my grandma is coming through, oh, my heart would just be so happy. But I don't think I'm going to hear from her. So seeing these other people happy is my reward.
Why don't you think grandma would come back to you? What's your take on that?
To be honest, she was deep South Bible Baptist and passed away when she was 91 in very good health. She just sort of went to sleep and didn't wake up, which is like the perfect way to go. And she'd been saying for about 5 years that she'd lived long enough and she just wanted to see the face of Jesus. And that's, she kind of stuck around for another 5 years, but she had done everything she'd wanted to do and she just wanted to go and not look back. And so it is my impression. I did have one possible spirit guide help me understand it better, but I am guessing that she's kind of like, let the earthly things go. I know you're in good hands. I'm fine. I'm off to other places. I did have one person, her husband, my grandfather. I had one person get very, very close. He had a specific slang nickname, which not anyone's going to be able to guess. And they got very, very close to that. And so my ears went, oh my goodness, this guy might be coming through. But other than the name being so very close, there was just a couple of comments that possibly might have been from him. But I'm taking everything with a grain of salt. Like when someone says, you're sitting on the fence, well, who isn't, And so I really listen to what is said to me by other people doing readings to make sure it's authentic, or is it something you could say to everybody?
Sure, right.
So
a lot of charlatans out there.
Yes, it's unfortunate. And it makes it, it makes a bad name for the rest of us. But yeah, so I don't think grandma's going to come through, but I will try to tune in for certain people, and at other times I'm just sitting there washing dishes and somebody says, I'm a female and I'm connected to those two guys you're going to be talking to tonight. And it's like, okay, let's see if I can get a, mother, grandmother, aunt, sister kind of a thing. Let's define what kind of female. Why are you coming through? What are you trying to say? And they will just contact me and start chattering. And I have
Okay.
had to learn how to shut that down.
So you're like a beacon.
Yes, and I think mediums, if you follow auras or Reiki or personal energy, I think the personal energy kind of seeps out brighter, you know, and like a beacon. And they do get attracted to.
Well, they know. I think all spirits and ghosts know who can see them and who
Yeah.
can't see them. So if you're in a room full of people and there's two mediums in there, they're going to go to those two people, the two mediums.
And mediums can find each other. We'll be in rooms and we're like, that person is going to me. I'm picking up on that. And I'll say, are you a medium? You know, yeah. And so, in fact, working with other mediums, Vicky Ruffalo in California, when she and I get together, boom, our energy goes sky high. And it's like, we're getting so much. So.
Did you know that Arizona is one of the leading places for the top mediums in the world that actually reside here?
Really?
Mm-hmm.
I got to get in touch with them.
It's absolutely fascinating. The number one, I don't know how there's ways to test them, but the number one medium in the world lives in Carefree, Arizona. Suzanne Wilson.
Who is that?
Suzanne Wilson. She's known as the Carefree medium. She's been everywhere. She's been on George Norrie. She's been on Midnight in the Desert. She's been on Gaia. She's literally been everywhere. She works hand in hand with Dr. David Schwartz down in Tucson at the University of Arizona, who actually does testing on mediums.
Okay.
Not really psychics, but mediums.
I'm going to look for
Yeah,
her.
Suzanne Wilson. She's fantastic. She's got a website and everything. She has classes and symposiums and stuff in Scottsdale quite a bit. I mean, she helps. She holds class. You know, she helps other intuitives and empaths, you know, strengthen their abilities and stuff like that. It's fantastic. Especially Sedona's a hotbed. You know, of course, you know Sedona. A lot of them live up in Sedona.
Yeah, I've been there so many times. Yeah, that place, you know, has energy to itself, so I think it attracts and it amplifies. You know, so it's on the Vortex Hunter website, and
The Vortex Hunter. There's vortexes up there. I do believe that.
Yeah.
A lot of both the spirit world and alien world.
Yeah. So one's right by the airport on the road up to the airport, and I've been to that one a couple of times. And you know, it's always a good experiment is don't tell somebody and see if they notice a shift in energy. Because if someone goes somewhere expecting, you know, this house is haunted, then do you, if it's not haunted, do people start saying, oh, did you hear that? Did you see that? You know, when it's, and so I always like experimenting things like that, you know, to make sure things are authentic.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you're right though. The house is going to be haunted if they think it's haunted.
Exactly.
Whether it's haunted or not, doesn't matter. If they think it's haunted, it's haunted. That's how human nature reacts. I always go as a skeptic, as a paranormal investigator. I'm a skeptic believer, a big one. Something's got to literally bite me in the butt to make sure that I'll say it's real. You know, other than good EVPs, or if I can hear disembodied voices, which I hear disembodied voices a lot. I'm not clairaudient, but I hear a lot of disembodied voices a lot when we go out.
Right, yeah.
So in the good EVPs, I mean, the equipment going off, okay, maybe. But once I start hearing voices and we get some really relevant EVPs or spirit box hits, then there's stuff, you know, our equipment's moving and stuff like that, then that's when we know, okay, there's something here.
So. Yeah, that's what I like about the paranormal group that I run is there's the full spectrum. You have people that are like you know, let's all settle down and think of natural causes and take the scientific approach and, you know, use our past experiences to first explain a natural cause for this. And then they balance out the people on the other side of the spectrum. Not quite anyone in the group is, oh, everything's haunted, because that's a bit too much. But they lean more towards, you know, fascinating. And then someone will say, well, let's take a look at this and stuff. And it's important to do that. They help. I'm in the middle, and they help balance out all sides of the group. So I just adore my paranormal groups. Good people.
Before we start talking about the Eisenhower farmhouse, which I'm excited to talk about your group. So how many groups are you in? Do you have one group? 'Cause I think on your Facebook page, think I saw that you had 2 groups that you belong to.
Yes, I have 2 that I founded and run. In California, we have CalPara, Paranormal Research, and Christina, the one that hopped on and said hi, she's our case manager.
Okay. Hi, Christina.
And over in Arizona, we have Parazona Research, and each group has maybe 15 people in it, roughly.
Wow.
Yeah, 10 to 15. And then, like I say, they're the full spectrum, the full range of belief systems. And most people, especially in the California group, most of them have a good 5 to 20 years experience, if not a bit more. In the Arizona group, I've got a couple that are like 2 years experience, but the rest of them have quite a few years experience.
Everybody wants to join the group, don't they?
Yeah, the more things come up on TV, I get emails weekly. I just saw a really cool show. How do I start my own group?
Mm-hmm.
And I say, please don't. Please join a group. And please have 2 years of patience before you even begin to think you know what's going on. Because every experience is going to be different and almost measured against each other. You get so used to what is supposed to happen, what you expect to happen, what has happened before. And then something different happens and you're trying to think, what? How do I deal with this and stuff? Especially our groups, because we go into private homes. And so we help people that say, I never thought I'd get a hold of you, and here I am emailing you, and I got weird stuff going on in my house. And you've got people going in there that have to be able to work together and have a like mindset and be respectful that there are strangers in this person's home. This isn't a thrill-seeking session like TV wants you to think,
Right.
And it's much more about respecting the deceased and respecting the living, because you're a guest in their home and they may have a problem, and they're looking for you to help them out and everything.
And more often than not, it's really, really boring.
It is. If people saw, I've talked to so many producers, and it's just like, they get a hold of us and we want to have an underwater paranormal show where the investigators dive down to sunken ships. And I'm like, okay, so we're going to put the K2 in like a watertight bag, or what's the deal here? And they're trying that new angle and everything. It's really, a lot of it's been done. Now it's like, what celebrity can we connect to the show? We got asked to be on a show, and then I watched the episode and I'm like, oh no, we don't want to be on that show. Those people shouldn't be in the paranormal.
Yeah, well, anything on TV, they're just ratings.
It is. It's all about your
Rating grounds,
sponsor.
yeah, that's
And
right.
many of the places that Ghost Adventures has gone, we have gone there for years. There are no demons there.
Hey, thank you. Thank you very much.
I personally cannot go. I've been jumped 3 times. I cannot go where there's a possibility of something evil and very negative that was never living. I can't be there. They will jump me, and that's not fun. So I will refer them on to some of the paranormal clergy that we are associated with and say, hey, this is above our pay grade. We are not one group that's out there that says, oh, just because we're a group, we can do it all. And that's just unfair, and so send it on.
Well, that's great. I mean, I personally don't believe in anything like that, so I don't think there's nowhere I wouldn't go, because I don't believe in non-living entities. Ever.
Okay.
Not. Absolutely do not. That's just me, though. Maybe it's because I've never experienced them. If I had experienced something like that, and I've done hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of investigations. And I have been to 47 different locations that Ghost Adventures have been to and investigated.
There
47.
you go. Yeah.
They have nothing.
Yeah.
Really,
No, I've been some places where it just didn't deal with the living the way you and I know it to be. There was a little man with feathers. He was 2 feet tall. He had feathers coming out of his back. I mean, just some weird stuff, and then getting jumped. That was by a living person, not
I
living.
believe that. I believe that can
Yeah,
absolutely
yeah.
happen.
Yeah. She
No
was
question about that.
deceased. Yeah, she was deceased and a little upset with me, and so she decided she was going to speak through me.
Mm.
I was like, "What's going on?" That was the first time, so I was very confused at what was going on. And but yeah, and then I had one that what again, we go back to the I'm not sure they were ever living. It was a very negative energy after the home had used a Ouija board and had some real issues about it trying to jump me at the house while we were there. And then what Christina was referring to was a couple years ago, we were speakers at a paranormal conference and we were referring to that story. And all of a sudden, this negative energy is reaching from the California home where it used to be through the air to Gettysburg and telling me, "You stop telling my story right now."
Hmm.
And this is right in the middle of me telling the story.
Wow.
And I froze up and I'm on the stage. Everybody's looking at me and I'm like, we need to move on to the next story. And my assistant director, Diane, is looking at me like, "What? This is not how we do this." And I'm just like, we're not going to talk about the story. And I told her, I can't talk about it anymore. Although I still hint towards it, but
Well, that's really interesting.
he doesn't like his story told.
Yeah, apparently not.
Either that or I'm crazy.
No, I don't believe that one for 1 second. Of course not. Talk about let's go to Robert. Your buddy Robert out East Coast. What's up with the Eisenhower farmhouse? I've been waiting to hear about it.
We were there. This is when Patrick Burns and Marley, his wife Marley, were hosting something at the Eisenhower house. And oh golly, I'm trying to remember the other guy. Chris Deadman was there. And so somebody had to go because their son was suddenly in the hospital for appendix, which we found out the next day. All he knows is he got a call from his wife, "Call me." And he's in the middle of this investigation. In the meantime, all kinds of activities going on. We're seeing people out the window. They're running outside looking and no one's there. And, we're hearing voices or recording short EVP sessions. We're getting voices and stuff. And the guy comes back in the back door and he's messing around in the back of the house and we're talking to him. And then he's talking to us, and then all of a sudden he stops talking to us. We're like, "Where'd the guy go?" And now this is a living person that went off to make the phone call. And we're looking around, and he's nowhere. Okay, this is interesting. So we finally found him the next day, and we're like, "What was that all about? You went out, you came back in, you were talking to us, and then you just stopped talking." And he said, "I never came back. I went to the hospital because my son was having emergency appendectomy. I never came back to the house." And we're like, "What?"
Interesting.
It's one of those like, oh man, and at the time, it was like he vaporized because we're having this conversation. And then there was no noise. There was a noise of the door opening, and we heard him shuffling into the house. "Are you back? Oh, yeah. Oh, okay. What's going on?" And then there's no second door opening, and there's no conversation anymore. There's no sound of him leaving. And he was in the kitchen, and we were in the living room, and we were like 10 feet away with one little partition between us. There should be no reason we're not hearing him leave again. So we're looking all over the place, like, what's going on? This doesn't make sense. That was pretty fascinating.
That's very fascinating.
It was just kind of like, aliens had taken him.
But how far away now? That was the Eisenhower house?
Yeah, it is. If you're in Gettysburg, which you haven't been, there's the main highway is formed into a Y. Goes up to the north and down to the south. And I believe that was down the south side of what they call the Y. So there's a main road in town that splits north and south and fans out, and then eventually they both leave the city. I think it's Eisenhower Road, actually.
Were you able to get into the Jenny Wade house?
Yes, I've been there a few times. Always have experiences. We were there at this. Our host there was Tony Pickman. If you're familiar with the Sally House, and they had.
Oh yeah, in Wichita or Hutchinson.
Yeah, exactly.
Hutchinson, Kansas. Yeah.
I think a doll was involved, and it's some scratching and stuff.
Right, a lot of scratching.
So
a lot of scratches.
Tony and his wife were hosting it at the Jenny Wade house, and
that's odd that they'd go out there and host it, but whatever.
Well, there was this paranormal conference, so they had asked to be, one of the hosts and stuff.
Gotcha.
And this is the one where my friend Robert was at, and we had quite a bit of activity going on. But I think the thing that was interesting to me was we had another celebrity person reaching out to Jenny Wade, because the obvious thing, if you're at Jenny Wade's sister's house, actually, she got killed at her sister's house.
Okay.
So if you're at the sister's house and Jenny was baking bread and a gunfire came through the door and killed her during the Civil War,
right?
You're going to call out for Jenny, how you doing? Are you upset? Are things okay for you now? Whatever. And that's kind of an obvious. But again, medium here, this soldier keeps going, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. And he's crying to me. And they're all talking about Jenny, Jenny, Jenny forever. And finally I said, we should talk about the soldier. Well, right after that, someone shut off their recorder and said, let's play it back. And when I said we should talk about the soldier, this guy says, I'm so sorry, on his recorder,
Really? Wow.
And it's like, aha. And that's the validation I'm looking for.
Now, you couldn't see him, the soldier. You could just feel him and hear him, right?
Feel him.
Or just meant to telepathically hear him, right? You just knew he was.
It's a third eye telepathic hearing, yes. And feel him, feel his emotions, and see him in the sense of telepathically. Again, up in the third eye chakra, they're flipping photo album pictures. So it's like, here's me by the tree, here's me over at the, grassy knoll or whatever. So he had made his impression on me, and I don't know if he was Union or Confederate. At that time he was just a soldier, and not distinctive color of clothing, but he may or may not have been the one that shot Jenny. He could have just been a drifting soldier. There's a lot going on in Gettysburg, with that kind of impact in 3 short days. There's just a lot of lingering energy there.
So you heard the I'm sorry on the recorder.
Yeah.
What happened to that? What'd that guy say?
Oh, the one that was focusing on Jenny?
Yeah.
He just moved to a different room. He just really wanted to focus on Jenny. And we were disrupting him and he was disrupting us. So it's kind of a courtesy to separate yourself, like, okay, well, I'm going with the soldier,
Yeah, sure.
He's talking to me and now I'm hearing his voice, so I don't want to leave the spirits high and dry. So and he wanted to focus on Jenny. I don't know if he'd been there 50 times or 1 time, so that's his choice. He wants to see if Jenny's going to come through.
Let me ask you something. Has anything ever followed you home?
I was just talking about this today with this medium group that I'm in. this lady has something at work. She's afraid it's going to follow her home. And I've got to say, I have been so lucky. Um, I wear a lot of protective stones. Again, that goes back to if you buy into it, is it the placebo effect? Is it truly working? We do a lot of protective prayers. I have learned to shut down some of the antennas sometimes when they're coming at me too much. All of that has worked, not to guarantee it will always work, but the answer is nothing has followed me home that I can remember. But then I already had a spirit at my house for about the first 10 years I lived there. He had passed away in my living room, and they did not disclose that when they sold the house to me.
And that's the house you're in now?
No, I moved out of that in 2 years
Okay.
ago. Yeah. Yeah, that's the one where the answering machine, he talked to me through the answering machine.
I got you. So
Yeah.
now you are in Phoenix now, correct?
Yeah, just north of it.
North Phoenix?
Surprise?
Oh,
North
okay.
Valley? Yeah. Yeah, up in
I
Surprise.
think that's where the Seattle Mariners play their baseball spring training. Yeah.
Texas Rangers and the Royals.
Oh, the Royals. Okay. Sorry, I
Yeah.
had to throw a little rod.
Not my teams, but I go to the games.
That's okay. I'm in Gilbert.
Jamie,
Oh, okay. You're
Okay.
across the valley.
Yes,
Ja-
I'm on the east side. I'm in the East Valley.
Yeah, we
Jamie,
got
if
a
you
house coming up in Gilbert.
Oh, you do? Good.
Yeah, yeah. We've had to bump it just like you guys.
Yes.
For people.
Yeah. So this last segment, you brought with you some good EVPs, old-fashioned EVPs that you wanted to share with us, and that we're going to play for our guests, our listeners tonight. So we're going to jump right into that, and then before we play them, I want you to tell me which ones, if I can find them. They were here. I know, there they are. I think I found them. So I want you to tell me which one to play, and then kind of lead up a little story to those and talk about them a little bit. Which one do you think you want to go with first?
We could begin with the first top one there.
The first one? Okay.
Santo. Do you
So
want me
talk
to tell
about
you?
that before I hit play.
You want me to tell you before?
Yeah. What happened?
Okay.
Where were you? Where's it from?
So there I was walking in a park in San Bernardino, California, when we came across a huge monument granite stone that basically said, this used to be the original Pioneer Cemetery, and we've moved the gravestones, but we've left the bodies and made this beautiful park for you. So we're like, what? And I turned on my recorder.
Wait a minute. You heard that?
No, it was on the
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
monument.
I thought that was EVP. I'm going, what?
The monument
that's EVP.
said, it said a formal dedication to the original pioneers that settled San Bernardino. This was the original cemetery, blah, blah, blah. Fell into disarray, and the city came back and made it beautiful once again. And the headstones can be viewed at the such and so museum, and pretty much the bodies are still under your feet.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And we're like, what? So I turn on my recorder and I'm telling my one friend, now this is on a Tuesday. This is about 11 in the morning. Everyone's at work or at school. There is 0 people in this park and 0 people around in the houses nearby. There's just really nobody there. And I'm telling her, well, I grew up around here, like I never knew about this. And I said, well, not here, up a couple blocks. And she says something, and then a third woman says, I believe her. So
Okay.
go for it.
All right.
27th Street. And they grew up here. I mean, not here, but up near the Del Rosa area? Yeah. Well, that's where it's called,
Yeah, there it was. Play it again.
27th Street. And they grew up here. I mean, not here, but up near the Del Rosa area? Yeah. Well, that's where it's called,
I believe her. Right at the end there. I believe her.
Yeah, and they say the strangest things. I mean, sometimes it's exactly what you're talking about. Sometimes it's about something different. Why would a lady say, I believe her?
Right. I mean, that's relevant to what you guys are talking about.
Yeah. So, let's see now. Down. Oh, can you play the one that's 2013 1017? It's got a bad word in there. Can you?
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
Okay, so we're doing a client's house.
Okay.
I believe it's a male voice. It comes through. I'll put the PG on it. He says, "I just effing punch you," but he says the whole words. So that was unexpected. I don't believe we heard it at the time. We were listening back when we got home to give a report to the client and the evidence.
Okay.
And all of a sudden, this comes in.
And this is a client's home in California?
Yes.
Okay, let's have a listen. Wait a minute. That's not there. That's a 1 second clip. Is there another one?
Oh,
Hold on, let me look.
nope. It didn't pick up. Okay.
Nah, there was just a 1 second clip on that. That was it.
Okay. Didn't pick up. I'll send it to you some other time.
Yeah, that'd be kind of cool to listen
We'll
to.
do. Okay. Here at 2013 0820 Hemet Mills.
Okay.
This was, I was feeling like something was unhappy for us being there. And so it says, "I warn if you won't go." So kind of validating my impression of, so I'm not happy we're here and everything. So we'll have to see. Some of these are louder than others, so we'll have to see how loud this one is.
Okay, so and this is in Hemet, California.
Yeah.
I warn if you won't go. Okay, let's listen to this one.
Try that again.
Right there.
Yeah, a lot. Now, see, that one's a whisper. So that's the one where you got to really strain on the headphones. And that's, part of the responsibility is if you're going to be in somebody's house, you have to give them quality time when you're reviewing your evidence. And
So I'm gonna play this one again. So about halfway through, it's a 7 second clip. So when I say play, listen about like in 3 seconds, you'll start hearing. It says, "I warn you. I warn if you won't go." Play. Yeah, right there.
yeah,
I hear it. And a lot of times it is, folks, I'll tell you right. I mean, we've listened to EVPs for a million hours, all of us paranormal investigators. And there's times where we hear stuff plain as day. To us in our ears, it's a Class A EVP. And a lot of times people say, "I can't hear it. I can't hear it." It takes a while for your ears to get trained to listen to these words and these vocalizations.
And that one is a more electronic sounding one. It's got that sound in the background.
Mm-hmm. And then once the minute you can piece something that's said, oh, that's so exciting. Okay, what's next?
Go down. I can't see yet. There's one with Todd in here. Good way down. Okay, hold on. Let's see. Something with Todd. Oh, okay. 2014-1115. German food. Yeah.
Right there.
That one.
Okay.
There. So this is the I think it's actually the William Heath Davis house in San Diego. Everybody talks about the Whaley house.
Mm-hmm.
Whaley house is nothing compared to the William Heath Davis house,
Wow.
which is like 20 minutes away from the Whaley house. So if you're gonna
I love the Whaley house.
Yeah, it's okay. But when you go to the William Heath Davis house, it makes the Whaley house like, a daytime carnival trip. It's really
like a daycare center.
Yeah, it's Whaley House is nothing compared to this place. This place is the most haunted place I've ever been to, ever.
Is it a privately owned home?
No one lives there. It is a tourist museum, city owned kind of a thing.
Okay.
At night they have haunted tours, but we rented it for an exclusive investigation. So, story is, up in the attic is a German soldier who is hiding. He's from World War II, and his name's Carl. And the girl that was our tour investigator guide for the night goes here often, and she had brought a different ghost a hamburger, and she said, "Oh, Carl, I should have brought you something." And he's German, and so we said, "Oh, you should have brought him German food." And then you hear, and there's only 3 women here, and you hear a male say German food, and we heard that audible.
Awesome.
So see if you can hear that.
All right. And this is it's a 4-second clip, so listen really good, guys.
Oh, Carl, I can bring you some German food.
Right before the girl says, "Ooh," you'll hear the
Yep.
die.
I heard it. Let's play it again.
Oh, Carl, I can bring you some German food.
Yep. One more time.
Carl, I can bring you some German food.
So my teammate's responding because she's hearing it out loud. She's like,
Right.
"Ooh,"
Yep, I heard it. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So let's try up here 2014-0427 Palm Desert Salon. Yeah, you don't hear me. Again, these are ones that I was finding today that I haven't listened to for years. I'm like, this is great. This is great. So this is a woman whose son had passed away. She owned a salon for hair and spa kind of a place out in Palm Desert, which is golf course mecca and
Right.
to the stars and what have you. So she had this high clientele she was real proud of, but her son had passed away and she was pretty sure he was visiting her salon and stuff, and he was. So we were talking about explaining to her, we may or may not hear them, we may have to go back and listen, and then he says, you don't hear me. So
Okay.
see, I don't know if it's a whisper or not.
All right. Palm Desert Salon, Palm Desert, California. 6-second clip.
Right there.
Yep. It's about 3 seconds in. Play it again, starting right now. Did you hear it, Rod? That one's a little harder for you to hear, but yeah, it's there.
Yeah, I did not hear it at all, but then my hearing is,
Oh, you're old.
yeah.
Here you go. Yeah, that's great.
I wish we could find that one that I was talking about Todd, because let's see, it's they're telling him to come up. Let's see, go towards the top here. Way up high. Although Todd would have been later on.
We'll do one more.
Yeah. Well, you could pick any. I'm trying to find the one with. I don't know if you can play this garage one here. It's actually a video. Can you get the audio to come through if you
Yep.
played that?
Yeah, absolutely. It'll play.
Yeah.
Oh, you're gonna love that. Okay, so this is a house we did in California, and a woman that works at the police station had moved in, and so you're seeing a video of, she's got all her moving boxes in the garage and everything, and she's on this cul-de-sac with only like 2 other houses. It's pretty limited, and there's not a whole lot around her in the neighborhood. But the minute she moved in, weird things happened. She put her dog in the house, closed the front door, went out to her car, got a few boxes, came in, couldn't find the dog. He was in the backyard, and her sliding glass door was closed. And she's like, how did he get out there? Put him back in the house. He's roaming free. Went out, came back in. She can't find him. He's in a closet and the door is closed, and he's freaking out. And so she gets a hold of us and says, I think my new house is haunted,
Mm.
So we got so much activity there and so many EVPs and really weird things going on. We put a camera in different parts of her house for a few days. And this was when she was home. And I think we were there and we were roaming all around the house. This was out in the garage recording. There's a screen right in the middle of it and someone had been killed at a house next door a few years before. So
Interesting.
we're wondering if this is the sound of, and it's a scream. So give it a play.
All right, let's play this and listen for a scream. Goodness.
Yeah, that was creepy. So we never heard it inside. We were roaming all around. Wasn't from the neighborhood.
All right, let's play that again here real quick. We'll fast forward it right to that point.
I think you caught the end of it.
I think I did too. All right, here we go. Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, so we never heard anything like that. And we were in the house, you know, you can logically start with that one, like maybe outside, maybe blah, blah, blah. But given the history, I think a woman was attacked in her home. And so that was chilling to capture that and not be able to connect it to anything.
Right. Yeah, that's what you look for as a paranormal investigator. You gotta look around every corner, and you've got to eliminate everything possible before
Right. Yeah.
you come back to the clients and say something is haunted or something's real and stuff like that. So, all right, cool. Those are great EVPs, Katie.
Yeah.
That was awesome. Thanks for sharing those with us. And there's a lot more. So, real quick, how can people get a hold of you?
Website for Calpera is www.calpera.org. It's got contact info on there. Website for Parazona is www.parazona.org. So California or Arizona, we cover both. And we actually blend the groups. They go to things together too, you know, and so we do homes, we do businesses, and then we do public locations and stuff.
Awesome. Well, maybe one of these times, years, months, we can join forces and do something.
Absolutely.
Stuff like that. So we'll definitely keep in touch. And we want to thank you so much for coming on the show tonight. You were a great guest and great stories. And anytime you feel like you need to come back with something new, just let us know. We can probably fit you in.
Thanks so much.
You bet, Katie. Absolutely. And everybody, for our back shows, you can go to Spreaker.com and click on the Cygnus X1 Paranormal Radio, and our whole list of shows, almost 2 years, we're coming up on 2 years, are listed there. And also we have our live chat there, and you can leave us a message at Spreaker.com. And Christina just left us a message. It says, chills, love the EVP, German food. And thank you for that, Christina. Also, we are on Facebook, Cygnus X1 Paranormal. That is our paranormal podcast. That is our Facebook page, Cygnus X1 Paranormal Podcast. And you can also catch us on YouTube now. We have our own channel, and just search for Cygnus X1 Paranormal Podcast as well. We'll wrap it up with one last plug here. Our main Facebook page, Cygnus X1 Paranormal Podcast.net. And all of that is links to each other, so you can message us there too. Katie, thank you again. Jamie, my friend, thank you.
Thank you. Good seeing you, Katie. Awesome.
Yeah.
See you out there.
Yeah. See you out there.
Happy hunting.
Happy hunting.
And be careful. Be careful out there.
Thank you very much. Have a good night, everybody.